Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about the new science fiction romance movie, Passengers. And this is a movie that I thought looked really interesting. And when I saw previews. No, not before a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we went to see something and we saw the trailer for it and we're like, what's this?
I was like, what is this? Yeah. And I thought two things immediately. I thought, oh cool, a thing that looks like possibly a nice, simple science fiction movie that's maybe in the same vein as Moon. I thought of Moon, but with this kind of romantic bent, or it could be this like really awful, convoluted, and super obnoxiously sappy thing. I thought all of those things, but decided to go ahead and give it a shot.
Yeah. And I also was interested in seeing it.
Yeah, so
I thought it looked like it was going to have major third act problems. There were some things in the trailer where I was like, oh, it's going to go real big at the end.
Mm-hmm. And I right out the gate, I'll just say I was pleasantly surprised with it.
I was too.
This is a movie about, and I don't know how far set in the future we are. I think it's ambiguous about that.
Yeah.
And the idea is that we are colonizing other planets, and that it's a commercial thing. So there's a company, and there's
Homestead,
called Homestead, with the most obnoxious slogan. I loved that. Don't feel homesick, feel homesick. Oh, that's awful, and exactly what it would be. And you can, for I'm sure an obscene amount of money, book passage on a ship.
Unless you have a service that you have a profession that is a need.
Is a need, to go to this colony, and it still costs something, we're told, but not as much. And that's Chris Pratt's character. He's an engineer, and so he gets to go more inexpensively. But of course, the kicker, if you're gonna go, is that by the time you get there, everyone you know will be dead because it's a 100-something year journey.
It's 120.
120, is it? Yeah. And everybody's in stasis the whole time. And of course, we've told that story lots of times. That's a real traditional science fiction thing to do. Where if you want to make a long trip, if you don't have light speed travel yet, the only thing you can do is put yourself in stasis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Chris Pratt, something happens to the ship, and he's awakened prematurely and 90 years early, and he's gonna have to kind of just live on the ship alone until he withers away and dies because he doesn't have any way to put himself back into stasis. And so he has to kind of decide whether or not he's going to wake somebody else up, or if he's, which would be, of course, just an awful thing to do to someone.
And he spends a long time trying to find any way to go back to sleep, to wake up the crew, because there's got to be something wrong. Like, he doesn't just immediately go to...
Right, yeah. And it's a full year before he makes that decision. Mm-hmm. And you can imagine how that goes. And then that's how Jennifer Lawrence and how her character ends up getting involved. And then it's... and then, as you would suspect from the trailers, it is a romance. But it's not just a romance.
Mm-hmm.
Eric, how did you feel about Passengers?
Passengers made me feel like I saw the feel-good movie of the summer.
In December. Yeah.
Well, winter is the new summer.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's not exactly what I expected going in. I mean, like I said, I thought it could end up getting too sappy, and then about halfway through I thought, no, they're not going to go that way.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit at the end, but it didn't bother me. We've talked about this. It didn't bother either of us, really. There's some real dumb stuff in this.
And this is a hard movie not to give things away with.
Well,
so, I mean, I'm doing my best not to do that, but, like, it is a feel-good movie, certainly.
And I feel like, I certainly remembered more from the trailer than you did.
Yeah.
There's a couple of things in this movie that play as kind of like...
Not to talk too much about advertising.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things in this movie that feel like kind of reveals, like the bartender is kind of a reveal, and it's in the trailer. I don't know how you advertise this movie without giving some stuff away. I would advertise it without, even though Jennifer Lawrence was going to be like a main character.
If at all possible.
If you can see this blind, if you can show this to people, if you can take someone that doesn't know, I think they'll have a really good experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad saying anything about it at all. Like we've already given away more than I'm comfortable with in this video, just in describing it at all. But the problem is their target audience is not just science fiction fans. They're also trying to get the tearjerker romance crowd there, and you can't do that without showing Jennifer Lawrence.
But as you're watching it, like
I wish you could just bring someone and say nothing to them.
just good because you're gonna spend the movie thinking it's gonna be Castaway. Then Jennifer Lawrence shows up.
You said feel good movie of the year. Can I suggest this date movie of the year?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I said
this would be a real, but of everything, and I haven't seen a lot this year. That's a good date movie.
BVS is the feel good movie of the year. This is the date movie of the year.
But this is a good date movie. I wish I brought my wife.
I text. So of course we went.
Right.
I actually texted a friend of mine from work, and I was like, Pastor's really good. It's a great date movie.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah.
I did not steal that from him.
No.
Best thing, worst thing?
Best thing is Chris Pratt. That guy can act, and like better than I realized. And I feel like I have that every time I see him in a new role. I'm like, oh, he can really act. But he can really act. He goes to some really dark is the wrong word. When he's really broken down and exhausted in this movie, you feel it. When the first time he goes out into space is one of the most emotional scenes in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And he's great.
He really sells it. I keep discovering every time I see another Chris Pratt movie just what his range is.
And there doesn't seem to be a box.
He keeps going farther and farther, and yet he always brings the same kind of charm. But then there's a new level to it. You
know what? He is possibly this generation's Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell is just an inherently likable guy, but he can go. He can rein it in. He talks about with. Escape from New York, where they were like, this character is unlikable. He's like, yeah, but everybody likes me for some reason, so they're gonna go with me.
Okay, let me suggest this, because that's even a couple generations removed. Let me suggest the 90s person he's like.
Okay.
He's this generation's Will Smith.
Yes. And Will Smith was the '90s generation Kurt Russell.
That's what it is. No, I think you're absolutely right, because there's that Will Smith thing he does, and Chris Pratt's getting star vehicles now, and he'll start getting more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you look at and I mean Will Smith has picked some crappy projects, but you look at
almost exclusively for the last
few years, unfortunately. But I mean like you look even in movies that aren't that good. You look at things like. What's the Last Man on Earth movie? I usually can remember that. I Am Legend, yeah. And he's got some real emotional range in that. And all kinds of, and of course he did Ali and stuff. He's not always just doing that Will Smith thing, but then there's usually at least an inkling of it. We're like, or that'll be the foundation of it, and then it's more layered than that. That's Chris Pratt. That's Chris Pratt in this movie.
Yeah, no, he's great. Worst thing would be, there is some, specifically towards the end, but a little bit throughout the movie, there are some leaps that this movie takes, and...
You mean leaps in logic?
Leaps in logic, and it starts as like little stuff, like we kind of talked about during the movie a little bit, where it's just like, why didn't that happen?
Yeah.
Why can't he pay for that?
I question the rules.
Why does this work, but that doesn't?
I question the rules of the ship. So like we said, this is a big commercial, ultimately kind of a commercial cruise ship. Where they're in stasis for all this time, but then they're supposed to be woken up 4 months before they get there, and so it's like a big luxury liner, and there's all these amenities, and it's such a cool looking place, and
the ship design's super cool.
It's brilliant, yeah. And when you wake up, there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can go do. But
because they wake you up 4 months before you're actually gonna hit the new planet. Oh, did you say that? Okay, I missed that. But some of
there's inconsistencies I felt like in who is allowed to do what and pay and buy what and one example that I think is not giving too much away is just so people know what we're talking about is he is not allowed to buy any drink except for a large coffee, which is an amusing joke.
Yeah.
I liked that, except he's also allowed to spend a ridiculous amount of money to try to call home.
Yeah.
And I'm just not sure why you can do one thing but not another thing.
Well,
and it being a commercial thing, like, or is the idea that it's part of your package, so if you didn't buy, like, a platinum package or whatever it is...
You just don't get that.
You just don't get those things.
Well, and it's all done...
But then, what about the bar?
Well... Yeah.
Like why isn't he limited to what kinds of drinks he can get?
Well, and it's all done with this wrist thing.
Yeah.
And then there's a point where, like, he breaks into, like, a luxury room and he can take all of the amenities there without it having to scan.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't understand that.
There's just a couple of... So, like, there's small things throughout the movie, and then when you get to the end of the movie, one after the other, there are two things
at least
that are just insane.
It's like really hokey in order to get us to where the story wants to be.
Yeah, and those aren't great, but it didn't kill. Neither of those killed the movie for me, and
which is amazing.
One of, if not both of them, I feel like should have
had us unintentionally laughing.
Yeah, well, and I did a little bit the second one.
Yeah, but then somehow or rather you weren't still laughing all the way through the ending.
No, not at all. Saying it earned it is wrong, but
no, yeah. I mean, that's still a big. It's still a big problem.
Yeah, but it doesn't kill the movie for me. If anyone sees this movie and is like, that ending's complete crap because of these things, I can't disagree with them.
I'm not going to disagree with you.
I went on the journey with them.
Well, you know what it is? When those things happen, what never happens is our characters being out of character.
Mm-hmm.
We never lose them, and we never lose the humanity of the piece, even when the internal logic gets hokey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what pulled you through it. That's what pulled me through it.
What does your sign say? Oh, and I'm feeling it.
Yeah. I honestly, I have this a lot.
Hold my sign sideways. Is that cool?
Yeah. Does that make you cool?
It's my birthday.
Is it? No, it's not.
There's a Simpsons gag where he's like, "Hey Chief, can I hold my gun sideways?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, Lou. It's your birthday."
I didn't know what you were doing when you said that. I was like, "It's your birthday." What does that mean? It's like he's like I'm just.
Look, I'll cry if I want to.
Eric's like I'm nonconformist. I hold my sign sideways. If you want to know what it says, you can read it sideways. And furthermore, you know green is good and red is bad. So who gives a crap if I'm feeling it? This movie made me feel simply right at home. Right at home.
Nice.
This is a very me kind of movie. Mm-hmm. The science fiction ideas are classic but made fresh again. Mm-hmm. This is all about a person's like compassion being at odds, their humanity being at odds with their primal instincts, with specifically Chris Pratt with his survival instinct, and which one of those, how do you mesh those together? And I really liked I throw around the term social commentary a lot, but there is certainly some discussion, or at least it's just there in the background, of how easy it is for society, and we're seeing more and more of this right now as we're going along, to rely so much on technology, to have this hubris that our technology can do no wrong.
Well, and what I like is
it's not even like human hubris. Like it starts at that place, but it gets to the point of just, well, it's always worked before, and we don't even have to know how it works anymore. And some of that I thought was actually genuinely kind of scary.
One of the things
I liked that
I really liked is that with that, and also with the big monolithic kind of evil screw you over corporation. Mm-hmm. The film never became about either of those things.
Right, yeah.
Because there's a lot of jabs at, like, how they screw you over and take your money, how, like, all this stuff. Like, it is not... It's like Walmart or something like that, or like Disney.
And that's why I hesitated saying social commentary. It is social commentary,
but it's not the message of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just kind of taking inherent realities and putting them in the future. But it's not... Like, there is not a grand conspiracy by the company, which is what I thought going in based on the trailer.
It is handled exactly. It's handled exactly the way it is in WALL-E. Mm-hmm. It's just like that.
Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of WALL-E in this. Mm-hmm. This is the movie that I wanted The Island to be. Did you ever see The Island? Mm-hmm. The Island is a Michael Bay film, and this is before I knew who Michael Bay was.
Yeah.
It is a premise. It's not the exact same. It's not the same premise at all, but it's a similar kind of a thing. Kind of. And this is like the small, simple version of what I wanted that movie to be, and then that movie becomes a Michael Bay movie. It's the movie I wanted in 2004 when The Island came out, and I saw The Island. It's a real simple, small, nice thing.
Well, and one thing that's really... and yet it manages to build a world that you can kind of believe in for the most part.
Yeah.
And I like that, I don't know, the ship feels kind of mysterious even though you know everything about it, if that makes any sense at all. Mm-hmm. Where you're so, our human characters are so detached from the ship, which is kind of controlling everything they do, that it gets unpredictable. Like, because it almost doesn't feel like a ship made by people. I mean, it feels like a ship made by a corporation, or made by like machines that a corporation made, and so it's not taking into account the human element, and that
or just malfunctions in general.
Exactly.
I mean,
well, it's not communicating anything to us. That's kind of the point I'm making.
One of the first things Chris Pratt does when he wakes up is he asks about but my thing opened.
Yeah. That
can't happen. That's the only response the computer has is that can't happen.
Yeah. And so he gives you this weird kind of mysterious, maybe mysterious is the wrong word, but just this vibe of like oh, we can't rely on our own technology, and so that like if only the thing was programmed such where anybody could go in and at least look at panels to see what the world is going on, but it's supposed to be like perfect, can do no wrong kind of technology. So I don't know. The best thing for me is that his character remains sympathetic throughout,
even
beyond the really awful thing he does. I was really impressed with that relationship.
Me too.
It's surprising that it works. There is a place where I should just hate her, and I don't. And I really appreciated that. And there's chemistry, but it's more than just surface, oh good, they have sexual tension. That's a real relationship.
Yeah. And I love the pacing. You get time to... I think one of the reasons you're able to go with Chris Pratt when he does the bad thing and never dislike him is because we spend so much time with him before that. And then, before we even get into anything else, we spend so much time building their relationship before we let anything happen to that. And then, it's a real old school movie in the way it's paced and the way you get to know these people.
And with him, we start with a real dilemma even when there's nobody else around. So it's not like we are building a status quo to a degree, but it starts right away with a character who is faced with a dilemma and wants something, and there is no way they can possibly get it. And so what do? So we're put in this real hopeless situation right away. And man, if he had made that choice real quick, the movie's done.
Yeah. Yep.
It does not work.
No. But that also tells you something about him, and the reason he got on the ship is real simple and really nice, and something that's very futuristic, but not as far away as I'd like it to be. If you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The being an engineer, the reason he goes to this planet is really simple, old worldy.
And something else that really helps that relationship, and my liking both of those people, of course, is that she is as interesting or more interesting than he is. I like that she is someone who went on the ship because she didn't know what her purpose was, and that being the kind of central idea of that character is the only way their relationship could ever work. That ends up being really important. And she's a journalist, and that's kind of a neat angle where she's gonna go all the way there and come all the way back to write a story 250 years later, because
no one else has ever done it.
Yeah, she has a passion for that. She wants to live an exciting life. I like, by the way, we should mention this. There are no flashbacks in this movie, and you don't need them, and it's wonderful that we don't have that, because both of them have backstory and talk about themselves, and her father is a really important character who never appears on screen, and I love that. But if only she was able to make some kind of a human connection, she probably would not feel the need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, P's ultimately the human connection that she needs. Like I said, it feels like a really sappy movie that at the end of the day I shouldn't like.
Yeah,
it wins me over.
Yeah, I have the exact same thing. I have the exact same...
I feel duped into loving it. And I don't know that it's emotionally manipulative.
Like she gets that message from her friend.
Yeah.
That maybe lays out too much of, like, this is what your character arc should be. But it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel like... I don't know.
This like just in the right mood for a thing like this. I don't know. But it got me.
I feel like I should like this movie less than I do, but I like it quite a bit.
My worst thing is the same as yours.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of anything else to go to. There's a couple of pretty massive conveniences, I suppose.
Yeah.
That I could point to. But production values are wonderful.
And without spoiling anything, there is a scene with water that is one of the best scenes I've seen all year.
And I have never seen that.
Never seen it. And I don't think I've read it either.
There's a spaceship thing with that you would think we have seen somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that. I'm not saying it's never been written down.
Yeah.
But...
Well, not that I've read lots of science fiction, but I've also not... I don't think I've seen it in comics. I don't think I've seen it in... And that's something you could do much easier in comics.
We should mention this, because we talked about this on the way back. This was a script that was shopped around to Hollywood around Hollywood for a long time. It was in development hell for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, Keanu Reeves was attached to it. And it was a script that was floating around as early as 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad it didn't get made then. Especially with the smaller budget it would have had at that point, because because it was with a different studio, I forget who, and it was supposed to be like a $35 million budget, and I don't think
this movie would have worked as well.
And it just we got treated to at least a way better looking movie.
Yeah, we got to have a real big science fiction movie in a small, intimate story.
Small scale, yeah, and that's just wonderful. This is one of the coolest spaceships I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I will go that far. And I've seen a lot of commercial spaceships lately. You know, you look at like Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing a lot of these kinds of things.
Yep.
And this one seemed new to me. And I liked the design of all the sets. Some of the sets were gorgeous. The swimming pool is gorgeous.
I like the little shield thing that's got out in front of the ship.
Yeah. I was gonna say the outside of the ship. It's really unusual.
Mm-hmm.
So what I was gonna say is I feel like this is a mid-2000s movie, and it feels like a mid-2000s movie.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm glad we waited to make because you couldn't have done that water scene.
Do you think it feels like a mid-2000s movie? This
Yes.
feels like a pre-9/11 movie to me. Nope,
not me.
No?
I was seeing a lot of movies in the theater around 08, 09, and I was transported back to that time.
Interesting.
It feels a lot like some of the science fiction I was seeing. This feels like it should have come out around the same time as Moon. I mean, it feels like that kind of a script.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like this script could have maybe been written before that, but I guess part of the reason I'm thinking that too is because it is, and we should mention this, it is a science fiction movie that does a really good job of extrapolating from now.
Yes.
And of course, yeah, you know, it was written almost a decade ago, but like a lot of the concerns are the same. Certainly,
yeah, they're not talking about MySpace or
overly
bad.
Yeah. Over automation and that kind of thing. But it feels like it doesn't feel throwbacky. Like the themes are real classic, but the trappings are now or about what's going on now and where we are going, and we're afraid we might go. It doesn't feel like we're having to. It doesn't feel like we're having to go back to the '60s, like a lot of science fiction movies end up feeling.
Yeah, I agree with that. When does WALL-E come out?
WALL-E is 05, 06.
Okay, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of WALL-E in this.
Yeah. Yeah, this was... Whoever wrote this probably just saw that movie.
Yeah. There's a bit of WALL-E in this.
But the live-action movie dealing with that stuff needed to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
it's not the same movie.
Have never dealt with that stuff, but yeah, doing the... Well, and I guess that movie's not even a stasis thing.
No, they're just on that ship, like, living, and they're big fat baby men in chairs.
Yeah, because they can't live in on the planet anymore, because we ruined it.
Yeah. This is not that. We do not have a ruined planet. We just have an overpopulated planet.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know 88 years afterwards.
That's true.
Well, we're only 30 years after.
Yeah.
But we actually don't know what Earth looks like, and I like that. I like that that's just completely in the dark. We have no idea what the planet is like right now, or what it will be like in 100 years.
Mm-hmm. And then, well, no, that's really important. It's not about that.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I kind of.
And it's not about what happens on the planet that we're going to or anything like that. Like that's. It's about these two people in this situation.
But what's nice is I find myself wondering about it because they put me enough in these characters' heads that she's wondering about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she has to. She's going to be there 250 years later. Is she going to come back to anything?
Yeah.
I mean, like that. Like we don't really talk about how big of a crazy risk that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, will Earth even be there for her to return to?
Yeah.
And especially given that messages will take about 50 years to get to there and then to come back.
Uh-huh.
Unless that's just a thing with the ship. That's a thing where, like, she wouldn't even... Like, if Earth got blown up, she'd be halfway back before she found out.
Before she even knew, yeah. And our only recourse would be to go back again, and but she doesn't have any... She wouldn't have any way to put herself back in stasis.
But at one, they tell us that if you turn around, going at, like... Because they say they're half of light speed. Turning around would take just as much time as just continuing your journey.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of an interesting thing.
Well, I thought all they meant was where they were at that point.
Well, they're only 30 years in to a 120-year journey.
Okay, I don't remember exactly what the line was.
Okay. But they say something about, like, if we turn around now, because we're going so fast, it'll take basically just as long.
Okay.
To get back to
that's what they were talking about, but I'd have to look at it again. But anyway, anything else you wanted to mention?
No.
This is a solid flick.
Yeah, it's real solid.
It's thoughtful. It's thoughtful, and again, it's I don't know. There's a lot of heart to it. There's a lot of real humanity in these characters, which I appreciated.
Yeah. And
that's an easy thing to screw up in a thing like this.
Well, and the cast well for that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're not the biggest Jennifer Lawrence fan.
I'm not. And I'm a little. I wouldn't be surprised if this movie was shot in sequence since it's all standing sets.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she's great when she first wakes up. She's playing it. Maybe it's intentional. She's playing it super distant and cold, but she's a little weird when she first gets up, and then she kind of like warms up. And maybe that is intentional, but I thought she was kind of stilted a little bit in the beginning when she first wakes up.
I think that's just you not liking Jennifer Lawrence and
maybe
being overly hard on her, probably.
Yeah,
but maybe not. I mean, I didn't think of that, but that doesn't.
I don't hate Jennifer Lawrence. I just hate what she does in those X-Men movies. And what she does to those X-Men movies. And she's kind of a terrible person. But that's neither here nor there.
Well, on that note, everybody thanks so much for watching. We sure appreciate it. If you've seen this movie, let us know what you think in the comments. And in the meantime, I am Captain Logan.
And you should see this movie. And you should go on a date to see this movie like we did.
Right, like we did. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
See you next time.
Ba-dee-da-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-d